If you were asked what verses capture the essence of Torah, what would you say? Probably the first verse that comes to most of our minds is Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Love your neighbor as yourself. Or you might choose a verse from this week's Torah portion. Tzedek, tzedek tirdof. Justice, justice you shall pursue. Well, our Hasidic teachers point to 5 essential phrases that they say capture the essence of Torah. There's, of course, the aforementioned Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, love your neighbor as yourself. And another 4 less easily recognized verses, one of which is found in this week's portion. Not tzedek, tzedek tirdof, by the way, but Tamim tihiyah im Adonai Elohecha. There it is. Be wholehearted with the eternal your God. It's easy to see why Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, love your neighbor as yourself, makes the top 5, of course. But why this verse? What the heck does it actually really mean to be wholehearted? And I think perhaps it's not just that it's the verse itself, but also where we find it in our annual cycle of Torah reading. This verse appears this week in Parashat Shoftim, a portion that always comes at the very beginning of the month of Elul, the month, of course, preceding Rosh Hashanah. 3 weeks ago, just prior to Tisha B'Av, we commenced our journey toward the High Holy Days. But with our entry this week into the month of Elul, there is an increased sense of urgency, of anticipation, which is acknowledged both in our liturgy, as we have done tonight, in our sacred readings from the Torah at this time of year. We enter Elul very much standing on the threshold of time. We enter a passageway that leads out of this year and into the next. And as we do so, there is an increased urgency to the question of how might we make next year just a bit better. As we each search for our answer to that question individually over this month and over the High Holy Days, our Torah suggests that we start here with this verse. Tamim tihiyah im Adonai Elohecha. Be wholehearted with the eternal your God. Given its place in the top 5, it's worth taking just a moment to dig a bit deeper into the meaning of this verse. Tamim, wholehearted. How exactly is one wholehearted? Well, we have 2 great examples from the Torah, of course. There is Noah. Noah is described as an ish tzaddik tamim, a righteous, wholehearted man in his generation. Noah was a man who, despite the surrounding social environment in which he found himself, pursued a righteous life. And this could not have been easy for him. For Noah, being wholehearted with God meant having to be ethically strong and morally courageous. Being wholehearted required him to be a man of unwavering conviction. After all, imagine what his neighbors said as they walked by, scoffing at that huge boat that was taking shape in his front yard. And then there's Avram. Before he became Avraham, he is told to walk before God and be tamim, be wholehearted. It is right after these words that he is told to be tamim that Avram becomes Avraham. The hay said to symbolize God's presence in his life, that he is indeed one who wholeheartedly walks before God. For Abraham to be tamim is to be in relationship with God. It is to make a conscious decision to make God a living presence in his life. What we can understand from both Noah and Abraham is that being tamim takes strength and conviction and commitment to walk a path of life guided by and adhering to a set of ideals we identify with Torah and ultimately with God. Then there's tihiyah. You, in the singular, not the plural, which is unusual really for Torah. Wholeheartedness is an individual commitment. We may come together to support each other, to encourage each other, to strengthen each other, but ultimately, the path we walk, our relationship with God, is very personal and incredibly intimate. And then there is with God. Wholeheartedness is a condition we can only achieve with God. We achieve wholeheartedness by animating the divine that exists within us. These are beautiful words and a lofty ideal, a wonderful slogan indeed as we begin to make our way towards the high holy days. But in very practical terms, I come back to that question with which I started. What does it mean to walk wholeheartedly with God? The answer to that question is what I think makes this verse essential to our Hasidic masters. You see, these words are found smack dab in the middle of a portion whose focus is the creation of a judicial system that assures that each and every person is treated fairly and equitably. In great detail, this week's portion describes the organization of a system of courts, a process of trial and appeal, and makes it quite clear in words that somehow have very poignant reverberations today that no one is above the law. In fact, there are those words, tzedek, tzedek tirdof, justice, justice you shall pursue. The pursuit of justice takes wholehearted courage and conviction. The kind of wholehearted commitment that comes only with knowing that we have a purpose much larger and more important, more holy than our own individual lives. In fact, the image of messianic times that comes down to us is of a society resting upon divine scales of justice, whose balance is maintained by our own individual wholehearted commitment to walk with God. So as we enter this month of Elul, our Torah asks us to begin the sacred journey toward the new year with a wholehearted commitment to the pursuit of justice. We begin our journey toward the high holy days as did Abraham, binding our lives to God's purpose. And we begin our journey as did Noah, with a personal and courageous commitment to walk with God. And we begin, as we will at the end of our service tonight, with the sounding of the shofar. Its primal sound calling us to return to what is most basic in our humanity, that we might create a just, compassionate, equitable, and ultimately sacred place where all might wholeheartedly walk with God. Can you hear Ratzon? May it be God's will. Amen.